vibe out, man. This is a show right here. Peace world, peace world, peace world. How you doing? You are now tuned in to NYP Talk Show. This episode right here is about to be the Haitian takeover. With all due respect, we got Baba Hassan in the building. I am your host, Mikey Fever. I'm thankful for you all tuning in to check this out. We about to give you a history of the motherland of Haiti to know the ins and out, why we are in this position. But before we could go any further, I'd like to introduce our brother, Baba Hassan, to the panel. Peace, brother. How you doing?
Peace, Mike. How you feeling?
Good, man. Good. Amped up, man. Yeah, more definitely, brother. Definitely, man. Where you from, man? Give us a little introduction. Where you from, bro? Where you from?
So I'm from Miami-Dade County, Florida.
Florida, the house.
Yeah. By way of Haiti, by way of Benin. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
I'm a representative, man. I'm a representative for this Pan-Africanism from this African worldview, you know.
Salute, most definitely. That's dope, bro. I like that, man. See, I like how the inclusion of all. You going to the Genesis, Africa. You know, from Africa. We descended from Africa to Haiti into the U.S., but we never forget our root, which is Africa.
No, facts. No, you can't be a Haitian without being African, without the identity of being African.
Tell them.
So no matter how we slice it, everything about the culture is African.
That's a fact. They'll tell them a lot of idiots be. Man, a lot of idiots be talking that stuff like, oh no, we're not African, this and that. I don't care where you from. If you're melanated from West Africa, whichever part of the world you're at, you descended from Africa. You can never forget that. I get it with ethnicities and nationalities and all, but we can never forget the motherland. Most definitely. Yeah. All right, that's peace, brother. That's peace, man. So you was born here in the U.S.
Yeah, I was born in the U.S., raised in South Florida, Miami. 305, grew up in the 80s and the 90s. Miami, which was a wild time, to be Haitian. I'm pretty sure, up there in Brooklyn, y'all kind of experienced, a little bit something that we experienced down here in Miami, but it was rough growing up in the 90s and 80s,
I heard.
As first generation.
Haitian. Oh, you first generation as well. I'm first generation. Trust me, I heard it growing up. I could say from third grade and up, the jokes of the Haitian booty scratcher, you eat cats and all that. A lot of that was for children who were misinformed, propaganda. You know what I'm saying? Something that's different. And to mind you, I was born here, but once they heard my last name, they're like, oh, Haitian. Right. But let me enjoy every bit of it because I was throwing bows for everybody, man. Listen, I had no problem knuckling up. You know what I'm saying?
I'm listen. I learned how to throw these. You know
exactly.
what I'm saying? Because I had to grow up Haitian, so I had to know how to throw these hands efficiently. You know what I'm saying?
Definitely, man.
It just was what it was. Like nobody was coming to save you as a Haitian. And down here it was really bad. Like there was a community, and anybody from Miami watching knows what I'm talking about. There was a community called Largemont, right? That sort of still exists to this day. And there was a bridge that we used to have to walk across, from Little Haiti and whatever. And they would actually throw Haitians off of that bridge.
Get out of here, really?
This is facts. This is facts. Matter of fact, down here in South Florida, we used to have to get out of school 30 minutes and 45 minutes early before the other students.
Yeah, I heard about it. Was the Haitian freshman Haitian Fridays? That was in New York too. I heard about that. The Haitian Fridays,
But again, propaganda and a lot of stuff that was bestowed upon our brothers and sisters to have them feel the way that they feel, which is kind of similar to what we experiencing today, to some degree on social media. But we'll get to that. I'll let you go ahead and finish dropping the intro.
No doubt. No, don't definitely. We're gonna get all to that. I like to as the gods say, we go from knowledge to born. We like to bring people to the beginning on why the propaganda was there and where we at today, because now we see a new thing uprising with this whole FBA versus the Caribbean versus the continental Africans. And I get it. I support determine your I'm all about the self-determination and creating your narrative with the whole FBA.
Mm-hmm.
When you finding out who you are instead of having somebody call you, um, you went from Negro, nigga, Afro-American, and now Black, and now foundational Black Americans. So you're finding your identity because
Right.
you've been here. You know what I'm saying? So we can never take away from that. But to see that evolve into something with Caribbean people versus FBA versus Caribbean, then they going at the continental Africans. To me, it's just pure division from there. It's very divisive. It sounds like something that came from the closet of white supremacy, a tactic to create division. And I'm not with that. You know what I'm saying? I don't respect that. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
And to be honest, I agree 100%. They have the right to self-determination, but
Yeah,
that self-determination should not come on the back of, displaced Africans in America. You know what I'm saying? It should not come on the back of having to, like, you can get reparations, you can self-determination without having to name call and talk down on, or do all the other things that we see taking place online.
yeah,
All those things are viable. You can get to reparations without having to name call and talk disparaging about homelands and go back to your homeland. Like that's the part that becomes divisive, right?
exactly.
And yeah, and this divisiveness, is not new. If you go back to Marcus Garvey and you read the philosophies and opinions of Marcus Garvey,
Mhm.
they started a movement called Garvey Must Go, and that was
Oh
a real
wow.
movement by W.E. Du Bois, and I can't remember the other gentleman's name right now, so for the sake of time, I'll skip it.
Yeah.
But they had a movement called Garvey Must Go, where Africans in America or Black Americans or foundational Black Americans, whatever the term
Mhm.
was at that time, where their whole thing was like Garvey got to get up out of here. Garvey making it hot for everybody. So the Randolph, A. Philip Randolph was the gentleman with W.E. Du Bois. But
Oh
this thing it existed, because that aseely of white supremacy has always existed inside of us. And I do want to say this before we move on.
wow.
The I don't want to make it seem like the conversation is one-sided, where
Mhm.
we aren't saying things about them or they saying things about us. We all have to come to a healing, of the diaspora, because people grew up in different environments and they say things. Africans say things,
Of
Akata, et cetera,
course,
et cetera. So right,
of
I don't
course.
I don't want to make it seem one-sided and biased just
Nah.
because I'm on the other side of the receiving end of it.
You know what, brother? I'm glad that you said that because I'm the same way. I'm very impartial. I
Hmm.
don't partake in the biasness because, as you mentioned, it comes from your upbringing. You see, in my household, my father and my mother, they were very welcoming. We didn't practice that division of we're Haitian, this is who they are. Because one thing my pops always say, their history basically is your history. They suffered the same way as you. You may have been liberated longer, but let me tell you, it's the same thing. you know, as long as they had that dark skin, they were considered less than human beings in the eyes of a bigot, of a European bigot. So this is why I want to bring an end to the conflict amongst FBA, continental Africans and Caribbean people, and come to a level of understanding. Understand is the highest form of love because it doesn't matter, man. We all catching hell. I don't care how you put it. One had a French enslaver, one had a Spaniard, and one had a British. And you always getting our butt kicks by them. So let's just stop the BS and just move forward and learn to elevate. So, without further ado, let's get into the show, man. It's gonna be very basic, man. Takes people from knowledge to born about the Haitian Revolution. What was the Haitian Revolution, man?
As Thomas Jefferson put it, the Haitian Revolution was something that sparked the revolution. It caused trouble um, in the 18th century. Thomas Jefferson and other European, colonizers was in fear of the Haitian Revolution. It I don't want to say it's single-handedly, but it was one of the moments in history that put a huge strain on the slaveocracy of the world, right? So let's take in consideration that in the 1800s, everywhere in the world there was a form of slavery, European slavery, right? Nowhere in the
Mhm,
world could you have gone and be free, you know,
mhm,
other than this small island called Haiti, right?
mhm,
You couldn't go to the continent because the continent was colonized. You couldn't go to the Caribbean because they were in full swing of slavery. You couldn't go to South America, Central America. You couldn't go to Australia. Nowhere could you go in this world to be free as a black man and walk with your head up in the island of Haiti, right? And so, this break in the slaveocracy was a shatter of the idea of white supremacy, that white people could be beat, right? And that's
Mm-hmm.
what the Haitian Revolution did. It showed that white people aren't invincible, that they aren't, these the gods of the earth, that they could
Mm-hmm.
be taken down and ran out of their property. So that was, in my opinion and in my research, the genesis of breaking the chains of slavery and also colonialism. You know, so for those who don't know, the Haitian Revolution sparked up in well, actually, the Haitian Revolution actually, if you want to be technical about it, it started when the first African uh, stepped foot on or was taken to the island of Haiti, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
we often think of the revolution as when they start fighting in mass numbers, but I
Oh,
mean, the revolution started once we got on the boat. Once we got on the boat and we realized, we were not going back home. Haitians fought, they died. There's records of, Igbo people jumping, off the ships.
mm-hmm.
A lot of us come from the Congo, so there's stories of that.
Yeah.
And then obviously in the 1500s, you had, other rebellions that took place that was quelled or squashed, excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
But the Haitian Genesis that we speak of, started in 1791.
Yeah.
And a lot of people think that it started with Toussaint, right?
Wow.
And that's not necessarily the case. You had people like Bayasu, right,
Right.
who was one of the founding fathers of the Haitian Revolution. You had people like Makandal,
Mm-hmm.
right? But by the time Bayasu is ran out of Florida, that's when Toussaint is coming up as a leader. Bayasu and Toussaint had a whole, situation that they had going on, and Bayasu had to escape to Florida. And when he
Okay.
escaped to Florida, he actually became the highest second general in the Spanish army, right?
Mm.
So George Bayasu, and he helped turn Florida into a huge maroon colony in Florida through the Spanish crown. This is documented history here.
I heard about this. Yeah.
Yeah. So, again, to kind of make it short and plain, the Haitian Revolution was the catalyst, in my opinion, again, and the genesis to sparking African people and all, indigenous people to fight back on a mass scale. Because there's always been rebellions and nobody likes to be oppressed. So there's always been forms of rebellion and skirmishes, but the organization of the Haitian Revolution, the plotting
Yeah.
of the Haitian Revolution, that was something never seen before and never done again since.
Yeah.
So it was world changing. It changed the landscape of the world.
Mm. That's powerful right there. I'm glad that you mentioned that because I'm learning about the biosuit. I didn't know biosuit was out in Florida with the Maroons
Hmm.
out there, and later on I learned in life that some Maroons were in Jamaica as well. They ran up to Jamaica, and you spoke about him being the first one. Then we had Makandal, and then it was Dutty Boukman, I believe.
Hmm.
After Dutty Boukman, who
Felice,
was who can you read that?
Felice, oh shoot, her name's slipping my now. Her name right now.
Saint-Domingue,
Fatima,
Fatima. Yeah,
Felice
Mama
Fatima.
Fatima.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
we can't forget her. We can't
you
forget the
can Mama
queens and the
Fatima.
sisters. Yep,
Sony Belair, something like that. Sony,
yep. Santee Belair.
Santee
Yep, yep,
Belair.
yep,
Yeah, and there's
yep. Soldier.
quite a few sisters that were involved. Like the connection with the Maroons. But Dutty Boukman went to Haiti. He was originally from a plantation from Jamaica. Went to Haiti,
Hmm.
and then he was like inciting, giving words and stuff like that. He was
So
the
the
idea,
thing
like
about it is he was a Muslim. He was a Muslim from the West African region. A lot
yeah,
of West Africans at the time were Muslim,
yes,
and he would carry around a Quran,
I
right?
heard about that.
So
Yeah.
so they would call him Bookman because he always carried around a book. He was a man, Bookman,
Hmm.
and it was also said that they actually burnt the Quran to his side of his stomach, as a way to
Wow.
like mock him or something like that. Um, but yeah, and I just want to backtrack a little bit. So when we use the term maroon,
Mm.
maroon is the same thing as a Seminole. right?
Yeah.
It
Okay.
just depends on what language you're speaking. I think when we think about slavery, we think about it in one context, that it was just slavery. But what we
Yeah.
have to understand is we're dealing with different European imperialists, right? So we got the French. They
Mm-hmm.
practice slavery differently than the Spanish practice slavery. The Spanish
Exactly.
practice slavery different than the British practice slavery. So, but how we've been taught about slavery is that it's just one way that it was just practiced, and that was not so. If it was so, I believe that we would have thrown up the shackles of slavery years before, because what happens is that if it was one way across the board throughout all the lands, people would have rebelled a lot faster. Things would have moved a lot faster. But because they
Mm-hmm.
had different ways of practicing slavery, whereas in the Spanish certain parts, if you were mixed race, you were kind of a part of the family.
Okay.
You were the negro, You know what I'm saying? The
Yeah.
Spanish were more welcome a little bit. The French were more freaky with it.
Yeah. I'm
They were
brutal.
more into making, yeah, and brutal and very brutal. They were more into making, their sex slaves, right? So that's why
Yeah.
when you go down to Louisiana, they have a whole hierarchy of colors with Creoles and light skins and dark skins, and
And the
the
mulattoes and
French,
all.
the mulattoes, right? The
Mm-hmm.
French practiced slavery a little more different, right? And then the British, they were just cruel with it. They
Oh
just,
yeah.
if you weren't white,
Yeah.
we don't care if you were mixed race. It doesn't matter,
And
you
they were
know.
buck breaking the men.
And they were buck breaking them in.
Yeah.
So they practice slavery different. You even have what were they called? I forgot what they were called in the plantations, where they had certain ways of task plantations, right?
Yeah.
Task plantations worked in a way where that if you got all your work done in a certain amount of time, you can actually go out
Mm-hmm.
and work for yourself, you know.
Oh.
And so yeah, so slavery. That's why they call it I forgot what they call it, the term for slavery, but it was unique wherever you went. It wasn't
Mm.
one way. It wasn't one, the peculiar institution. That's what it was called. The peculiar institution. Peculiar meaning that it's weird. It's a
Yeah.
weird way of being. And so it wasn't one way throughout all forms of imperialistic slavery. So going back to what I was saying about the word maroon just means Seminole, because though you're talking about the French, you're talking about the Spanish and the English. So maroon is how you would say it in, an English term or whatever the case may be. Seminole is like another way of saying runaway. So it's kind of like the same thing. Maroon, Seminole, etc. They mean the same thing essentially.
All right, got you. And
Yep.
prior before, like I like to understand, have an understanding for those because there's like I see little complexities and battles amongst, I hate to say it, amongst Haitians and Dominicans online about who was an island first. Was it the African or was it the indigenous Taino or Arawak, right? Like, I want to get into the concept of like, all right, both Taino and African were victims of slavery, right?
Hmm.
Because we know after Bartholomew de la Cosas, that scumbag sort of abuse of the Taino people, he said, let's go to West Africa and get some, people to come work here. We could force them into slavery because these people are too weak and they are dying out, because we are obliterating them with diseases and the atrocities that are being committed against them, right? I
Right.
like
Let me
to
let me
know.
pause. Let me pause right there for a second, brother. I want to interject because I don't want to forget. Let me stop right there for a second.
Go ahead, go
So
ahead.
the reason why, and this is the part that a lot of historians and scholars miss over,
Yeah,
essentially. Not saying that I cracked the code, but the
yeah.
reason why Africans were more suitable to deal with European diseases is because we have been dealing with Europeans longer than the natives, right? You got
Oh,
to
okay.
remember, Africans. Christopher Columbus was already in West Africa for a long period of time. That's how he got the maps from the Moors and things like that. So
Talk about that. Yep.
we are already having contact with the Europeans, from 711 AD to when we were in Spain, when we were in Europe. So our body was more immune because we already had been dealing with them prior to that, right?
Mhm,
And so that's why we didn't die off when we came in contact with them. Now the natives, the Tainos, who just were meeting them,
mhm.
they didn't have that immune system to deal with that because they just had met them. So I just wanted to interject that before you went further
No,
on.
I'm glad you did because that's something that I always figured out too. Because not every person that was carried over from Africa, this could be Correct me if I'm wrong. It could be theory or not, but I always say not every African actually came from Africa during the time of slavery in the New World. Because I'm thinking about the fall of Granada from the Moors in Spain. They were already there, so a lot of them may have came over from Spain straight to Hispaniola. That's known to as the Dominican Republic in Haiti. Am I correct with that?
Well, I mean, yeah, we know that there was trading going back and forth with the native population, what we want to call the native population here
Yeah.
in the United States. I mean, you have cups, you have spears, you have matter of fact, there was a study done not too long ago, and people could look this up, where they found cocaine in some Egyptians' mummies, right?
What?
Like they found cocaine, right? And as we know, cocaine is growing in South America, like that, the
Yeah.
cocoa plant or whatever comes from South
Yeah.
America.
The
And
opium. Yeah.
so, how would that trade even be taking place if Africans weren't going back and forth before that? So we know that a lot of Africans came
Navigating the
here from
seas
Africa.
already. Yeah.
They were
They were there.
navigating the seas, right?
Yeah.
That's there's even currents that can literally take you from West Africa into the Caribbean, into South America, and back up to Africa again. A Urugu did this in like the 1960s. He did it in a canoe boat, right? He did that and showed that you can go from West Africa. So we know that, and you could go to Abababukari, you could go to Mansa Musa. I mean, it's so many, theories, or not theories, but examples that we can show that we were traveling and circumnavigating the world before the European even thought about, leaving Europe. I think, but what I think is a lot of people confuse the argument and say that we were here and we're not from Africa.
Yeah.
So just because we beat the Europeans here, don't mean that we didn't come from somewhere else.
Exactly.
And I
Yeah.
think that's the confusion and the shelf people like to hang their hat on. That, well, we were here first. Okay, I,
Yeah.
I I get that. I understand that, but that's still not where we originated from, where our culture originated from. You know, um, there is no older culture than Nile Valley civilization, or
Talk about it.
those bones and those artifacts that come out of East Africa. So, I mean, we could play that game because it's easy to run from Africa, but
Yeah.
the reality is, yes, we were traveling back and forth here, like back and forth, and
Hmm.
we a lot of us were here before the Europeans got here, but also Africa is our home. Africa is where we developed our culture, developed our languages, developed our way of being, and we traveled.
Got you. So we established that the Africans
Yes.
were already navigating the seas. We were already making moves, and we were in contact with the Europeans already dealing with the Moors when we
Mhm.
conquered Spain, and with the indigenous people trades within trade and stuff like that with them, right?
Yes,
So
yes. But I just want to correct that, right? Not correct that, but I want
no,
to
go ahead.
build
Go
on
ahead.
that. Sorry.
Mhm.
We didn't conquer,
We
right? We
conquered
civilized.
civilized. Okay, let's say that.
We civilized.
Yeah.
There's a difference, because when the Africans went to, and I see a lot of people say this now. Oh, we conquered Europe. We conquered. No, no,
Yeah,
no. We
because
civilized.
that's the term we got accustomed to hearing. We conquered, but in reality, we did civilize.
We
Mathematics,
civilized.
sciences, even how to take a proper shower,
Correct, correct. And
hygiene.
and I know
Yeah.
some people might say, why do you need to correct that? Like, that's so it's
No, no,
semantics and
no. Go
things
ahead.
like that. But no, it's true too, because how we tell the story determines how we feel about the story, determines how we behave towards the story, and how we
Yeah.
move throughout our day to day, right?
Yeah.
Because if we say things like conquer, then people turn around and say, well, we just came back and reconquered y'all and enslaved y'all because
Yeah.
y'all did it to us and da da da.
Yeah.
And it's like, nah, that's not what it was. We
We
civilized
civilized them. I got you.
Europeans,
So we still.
and you guys came and conquered and did all those things. So I just wanted to add that clarification. Appreciate you for allowing me to
No,
do
no,
that,
no.
brother.
It's all good. Listen, man. This platform is all about gaining understanding, so we as the people can move forward. We
Yes,
don't
sir.
we don't deal with egos over here, man.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Um,
sir. Yes, sir.
I'm glad that you mentioned that, and I want to get into this context. So we know that Bartholomew said, "Let's go get some Africans because they are more immune, they stronger, they could deal with this terrain and the abuse whatsoever." In the name of God, in the Catholic Church, because he was remember he was a pope or something like that, I believe. All right, so that sucker came in the name of God, And so let's enslave some Africans, right? The question I'd like to know, when that took place, right? Why was Saint-Domingue, now known as Haiti, so important economically that time?
So when we talk about economics, economics is just a set of relations to a certain thing. So at one point in time, salt was more valuable than gold,
Yeah.
right? Kyrie shells was more valuable than anything. Economics is just a set of relations to a thing. If I can convince you that this thing is important, then I can create a form of economics. I can create a form of trade, right? That's what economics is, how you relate to a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so, with that being said, one of the newfound things for Europeans was sugar,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And tea was becoming a thing because they were also, making their way over there in Asia and dealing with the teas and things like that. And
Yeah.
so tea was a thing, and Haiti was a huge producer of sugar.
Yeah.
And so it became highly important for them to get a hold of that and maintain that because that was their whole economy, right? It could have been
Sugar.
anything, but at the
Yeah.
at the time, it was sugar,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And so we also have to remember at that time too, Europeans were scrambling for power, right?
Yeah.
And Haiti becomes important because it gives France the economic superiority of every other European nation because it produces so much sugar,
Exactly.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And so Britain is mad because they feel like they control the seas. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, wait, how y'all got all this sugar? And Spain is mad, so Haiti becomes economically important because the new thing of that time is sugar. So we
Mm-hmm.
went from salt to gold to sugar to now it's intellectual property, right?
Yes.
Where you know apps and things like that. And so that's becoming like a form of economics in some type of way.
Mm-hmm.
So Haiti becomes important during that time period because white people wanted tea, and they felt that our lives were dispensable for sugar. That
Mm-hmm.
that that sugar was more important than African lives.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The suckers at the time, yeah. All right, so when that took place, the sugar, they constantly exploit the people, exploit the land, because they are basically pillaging, raping, and all that to get their sugar. Economically, France is growing now, and prior to that, to set it back a little bit, there was issues, conflicts between Spain and France when they landed on the island of Hispaniola, known as Saint-Domingue, known as modern day Dominican Republic and Haiti. They were made wars between them that come up with a treaty, I believe, at one point, right? To stop the fighting, amongst them, where they parcel the island into two parts, one side belonging to Spain, one belonged to France, right? And, sugar cane was the biggest import export. How much money were they actually accumulating at that time? If you could come up with a number.
Ooh, so different economists, they have given it different numbers,
Mm-hmm.
but a lot of people say well into the billions. I'll even give you an example on how important Haiti was to France. We all know that they sold the Louisiana Purchase to maintain and try to hold on to Haiti. So that island meant more to France than Louisiana,
Mm-hmm.
Kentucky, St. Louis,
Mm-hmm.
half of Texas,
Chicago.
Chicago,
Mhm.
like that landmass was so important because of that sugar that it was producing that they sold for pennies on a dollar, all that area for that little bit. So again, different economists say different things. Some say 20 billion, some people say 100 billion, but I mean the
Mm.
numbers were crazy. That Napoleon couldn't let go of that island because he knew what it was producing, and it came at a heavy cost. It
Yeah,
came at a
it did.
heavy cost. Most Africans on that island never lived past 7 8 years on that island.
Yeah.
You were lucky. You were lucky if you were living past 7 8 years, and that is also a reason why Haiti is so African in its way because we
Mhm.
always had fresh Africans coming to the island, and it
Yeah.
kept that African
Mm.
culture, that rah rah,
The
that
blood, yeah.
vibration. Yeah, that blood. Slavery in Haiti never really became generational because they died off so fast. So we were able to hold on to the drums, to the language, to the
Yeah.
etc. Where in other parts of the world, slavery became generational, and then
Mhm.
their Africanness began to die down a little bit. They're still
Got
African,
you.
of course,
Yeah.
but it began to like subset, because it
Got
became
you.
generational. And as it becomes generational, you become less connected to Africa. If that
Mm.
makes any sense.
You see, the reason why I bring that up, I'm glad that you broke that down for us, and thank you for that, is because with all that being said, the billions of dollars, here's the BS that happened. We're creeping in from that time into the revolution, the start of it from 1791, right? So you had some indigenous and some Africans coming together saying, you know what, we're gonna revolt. We're gonna overthrow master, and we're gonna take back what's ours, our dignity, our self-respect, our human our human side of us, right? Because they would, slavery devalues some people, takes away from you. Speaking a different person's language, they force me to live a certain lifestyle which is not yours. So 1791 breaks out. They start fighting. Makandal, hit it off with the poisoning of the slave masters, and the others came in. Sent, the sisters came in. Then we come into Toussaint, who himself was respected by he was a member of the French army at one point, right? He was a member, respected general, I believe, or something like that. And he said, you know what? I'm partaking in this. So Toussaint goes on, starts the war. We defeated the French whatsoever, but then he felt a certain loyalty to them, where he said, okay, we got our liberty and all, but you're gonna respect us as as people, and being that I'm a member of your army, you know, basically he wanted to be accepted. Right? Which was the setup to me. Like he kind of, no disrespect to the elder, but kind of, was kissing a little butt, right? We could say that, right? I know I'm gonna get flack for that, but oh well. You know what I'm saying? And it cost him his life.
Yeah.
All right. And
So there's a great book. I'm sorry, brother. Will you finish? I'm sorry.
now there was a part where he even tried to tell the newly freed slaves now return back to the plantation, right?
Mhm.
You can continue. That
Yeah.
part of the story always gets me, man. I don't understand that.
So there's a great book by the ancestor Jacob Carruthers, and the book is called The Irritated Genie.
Yeah.
And it's a collection of essays, dealing with the Haitian Revolution. And
Hmm.
this ancestor brilliantly broke down the difference between the irritated genie
Hmm.
and I can't the irritated genie and the Phantom of Liberty,
Yeah.
right? And so basically, the Phantom of Liberty has always existed in any African revolution. So if you look at Jean-Jacques Dessalines,
Yeah.
and then you look at Toussaint Louverture, right?
Hmm.
And you take that archetype, right? Which the Phantom of Liberty would be Toussaint Louverture, where he thinks that we just have to get along, we can
Yeah.
work through it, and we can fix it out. And then you have the irritated genie, right? Who
Mm.
is Jean-Jacques Dessalines, who says, cut their heads off.
Was the
We
Malcolm
we we
X?
we yeah we and then you fast forward, right, and then
Yeah.
you have W.E. Du Bois, and you have Frederick Douglass, and then you
Mm.
have you can see throughout history those archetypes of those men
Leaders.
who,
Yeah.
where one man he's standing up for his people, he believes what he's doing is right, the
Hmm.
Martin Luther King type, and then you have the Malcolm X type, right?
Yeah.
And so we've been following, unfortunately, that that Phantom of Liberty throughout history. And we always look at the irritated genie as the one who's you're the one who's really making it bad for us, because you're
Yeah.
irritating the white people, and you're
Yeah.
making them mad, and you're
Yeah.
talking about
Demagogue.
revolution and
Yeah. Yeah.
correct,
Yeah. Agitator.
you know, right? You're an agitator, right?
Yeah.
And but what they're really saying is the thing. They're really just saying like, no matter how we come to them, on how we approach it, is going
Mhm.
to have to be a situation where we have to go head to head with these people, you know.
Mhm.
Um, and that's just the reality of it. That's not tough talking. That's not conspiracy talk. That's just the reality. If you want to get these people foot off your neck, it's not going to come through negotiation. You know, they know how to deal with them with themselves. They know how to interact with themselves. You see, Russia and Ukraine. Ukraine not begging and saying, "Hey, why can't we be friends?" Ukraine saying, "We need some weapons to fight back." You
Exactly.
know. So and to kind of pull it back a little bit to get it back on topic.
Mhm.
Toussaint, unfortunately, he believed in that phantom of liberty. He believed that, we can be one as people. And I'll even give you a better one, right? There was
Hmm.
a white man named Santonax,
I
right?
heard of him. Yeah.
Who, yeah, and he said, Toussaint, you got to eliminate every white person on this island if you want to be free. Even me. He
Mm-hmm.
said, even me, because I will be a poison to, he said, even me, you have to get rid of me. You know what
Hmm.
Toussaint did? Toussaint sent him back to France. Toussaint got him up out there and sent him back to France.
The
Right?
compassion.
I say that to say that they know when you hear a white person talking like that, when you hear a John Brown, and you hear that, they know who they are.
Yeah.
They know how they are.
Hmm.
And so we need to take heed to that. But unfortunately, a lot of us just don't understand that we at
Bootlickers.
war.
Sorry, bootlickers.
Yeah,
But anyway,
yeah,
but
yeah. A
no,
lot of us don't understand that we at war. And when I mean at war, I don't mean it always has to be physical. It can
nah,
be,
mental.
social, economical, cultural, religious war, whatever.
Mhm.
There's an old saying: Black people hate everything about slavery but Christianity. So,
Ooh.
that's that's
Hold
another
on,
one.
hold on, hold on, hold on. Let me give that a sound right there.
Bombo Club!
Yo, it's a fact. Because
Yeah,
you go to the majority of people's homes, you know what I'm saying? You find what Jesus, even within our culture, and no disrespect to voodoo, the synchronicity of voodoo that we had to use Catholic saints. And I just learned that I've been knew that, but really I applied it in the sense where I went by my altars and I removed every saint photo and just went straight to Veves. So I'm telling you, it's something that has been passed down. And I'm like, hold up, I get it. No disrespect to voodoo. We hide the meaning of the true the energy behind it, the deity that's behind that image. But I'm like, I don't have to do this no more. I'm not
right.
hiding what I practice. I'm gonna remove that. With all due respect, I'm gonna remove that and I'm gonna put a
Of
veve.
course, of
You know
course,
what I'm
of
saying?
course.
So
Yeah,
and again, it's not me being me speaking like this, me being pro my people, pro black, whatsoever you want to call it, doesn't mean I'm anti-white. I'm anti-white supremacy. I'm
mm,
anti BS, anti the devilishment, as the gods say, and the NOI said, because they are also black devils too, and we're gonna get into that within the Haitian Revolution. They were also black devils, and that sold our people out. If you look at the condition of the island today, it's not because not only of what the addendum that the French put on us with the debt for us liberating ourselves and the mistakes that we made ourselves as a nation, but our own people sold us out as well. So let's. I don't want to go too far on that, but
I,
go
no,
ahead.
no, no. I definitely want to get on the topic of black devils because,
Yeah.
um, I personally, from an African centered worldview, meaning I put Africa at the center of all my thoughts, behaviors, and etc.
Mhm.
I don't subscribe to the idea of black devils. I subscribe to the idea of uh, devil helpers. You get what I'm saying?
Gotcha.
Because there
Okay.
is, in my opinion, there is only one devil on this earth, and it is the white man and the white woman, or Yorugu, whatever you want to call them. And I'm speaking from a cultural point of view. You get what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Because
Mhm.
culture operates and dictates how we move throughout this world. And so um, they are the epitome of what it means to be a devil in their behavior, in their cultural behavior to other people. Um, and that's that. Now, do they have devil helpers? Of course, they got Indian devil helpers, Arab devil helpers. They have, black devil helpers, of course. But at the end of the day, it is always them, the deceivers, who are always the ones benefiting from the devilish behavior.
All right. That's peace right there, and I'm glad that you put that out there. So back to like Toussaint,
Yes, sir.
he spared the life of Saint-Domingue, right? Sent him back to France, and then he put the newly freed slaves back in the field to say, okay, we're gonna build a nation, but I'm trying to appease to France real quick. The greatest mistake he made. He took that trip, went to France on a ship, and never came back. Died in regrets in that dungeon that he was in. So now it led us. The revolution now is in the hands of Jean-Jacques Dessalines. as you put it, the irritated genie, the Ogu Ferai spirit. And his thing was Kupet that Bulekai, which means cut every head, burn down every house, right? Can you take us through that journey of Jean-Jacques Dessalines, his approach?
So yes, so Dessalines' approach was one of from becoming student to master, right? And from an early age, he was raised by a woman. And that's one thing we cannot do. We cannot neglect the African woman presence in the Haitian Revolution, because it
Talk
was
about it.
75% to 65% of the soldiers were women and children. Were now because of European ways of telling history, right? His story, right? The story gets more focused on the men of the Haitian Revolution. They become the pioneers. But when you talk about who when you talk about who was Henry Christophe's chief soldiers, right? It was women. When you talk about who Dessalines used as bodyguards, it was women. So we can't ever forget the women of the Haitian Revolution. But Jean-Jacques Dessalines was raised by a woman named Tantoya, right? And Tantoya. And she was from Dahomey. She was a Dahomey warrior, right? One of the interesting parts that was taking place at that time is there was a civil war that was taking place in the Congo. And so obviously, Europeans inflamed that. And so there was a lot of catching and selling and catching and selling amongst the Africans. Now, you were selling Dahomey women. And if anybody knows the story about Dahomey women, these were some fierce warriors. And so one of the things that Tantoya trained Dessalines on is that you will do for Haiti what I could not do for my country, what I could not do for Dahomey, and you will free Dahomey. And so he always had a rebellious spirit. There's stories about him by his back was totally whipped up from, like, he had no space for regular skin. His whole back was welched up because he would continuously fight, and then eventually he was bought by an African by the name of Dessalines. And so upon his purchase, he said to him, I fought the white man my whole life to get out of slavery. And he was like, I'm going to fight a black slaver too. And so the guy Dessalines told him, he was like, no, I didn't purchase you to enslave you. I purchased you to set you free, and if you want to stay here, you can work here, and et cetera, et cetera. So he was purchased by Dessalines and raised by this warrior woman, Tantoya. And so Toussaint is killed or died, and Dessalines rises to power. Now, a lot of people, often go into the idea that Dessalines was a bigot, that he killed other white people.
I heard the same thing too.
We get into these stories, man, but there has been numerous accounts that said that is not true. Matter of fact, Dessalines even allowed some of the Polish soldiers to join the Haitian Revolution. In
Kazal, right? The town now Kazal, Haiti. Yeah.
Right. Where he gave them land and things like that. He even allowed mulattoes to be a part of the general armies and etc. So the one thing he put in the Constitution is that, though, if you are in Haiti, you are black. You are considered to be black. Even if you're white, you're considered to be black. Now, do I agree with that today? No, but I understand what his concept was at that time. So I just want to dispel that he killed all the white people. That's not true. But he does come with a level of fierceness.
That's what I'm saying. Ferocity is just intense, man.
He is a beast. I would, in my opinion, he would be the father of what we call now guerrilla warfare. Jean-Jacques Dessalines would be the father of what we call. I'm talking about burning down whole cities, having people lay down in grass and make certain noises and calls and things like that, and then we all spring up from the ground and attack. He did that. He was a military genius. One of the things that I eventually got to get tattooed on one of his sayings, he said, even if you see me submit to the French 1,000 times, just know that I will betray them 1,001 times.
I love that.
Yeah,
I love that. I love that. Yeah.
he said, even if you see me submit to them and they capture me, just know that at the first chance I get, I will betray them for this
Exactly.
revolution. And so eventually, they have their last battles
Hmm.
um, in Cap Haitian, and they run the French out, and Dessalines becomes, the man. He
Emperor.
becomes the emperor. Uh, Emperor Dessalines.
Yeah. And the color of the flag at the time was black and red, right? It wasn't that
Yes,
blue that we
he
have now.
no. So the blue and the red. If you study vexillology,
Hmm.
it's kind of like the study of flags or whatever.
Yeah.
That came out of the psyche of the mulattoes, right? A lot of
Of
people try to
course.
put that on Dessalines, but it
Mm.
came out of the psyche of the mulattoes, of them wanting to kind of be with the French. But Dessalines said, okay, there's a story where he
Mhm.
ripped the flag and then put the blue and the red together. Nobody could really say that's the true story,
Verifying.
but when he unveiled the flag that he unveiled, it
Mm.
was black and red,
So did
and
it
this
have
is
the lines on it? I want to
the
correct that.
Lions. That came later. That
That
came
came
later
later.
with Henry
Okay.
Christophe.
Oh
That
yeah.
came later with Henry Christophe. Yeah. And that black and red flag was the inspiration between the red, black, and green colors that we wear today.
Okay.
So, yeah, so Marcus Garvey just kind of incorporated the red, black, and green to go into it. So that color scheme came from Haiti. But the blue and red flag, yeah, that's whenever that flag is flying in Haiti,
Yeah.
I can guarantee you that the country is being ran by mulattoes for
Exactly.
sure.
What's happening today? Because there is a small group of individuals that are actually running Haiti right now that has it in the position that it is, and it's the same thing that happened when Haiti liberated itself from the French. That debt was placed on us. Like I have never heard in the history where a oppressor must be paid reparations from the enslaved.
Well, let's examine that, right?
Yeah.
So let's look at we got Dessalines, who's assassinated 2 years after he becomes emperor. He's killed by a group of mulattoes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Alexander Petion, and
Mm-hmm.
Boyer, right?
Yeah.
They conspired to have him killed. They
Piss on
trapped
their
him,
graves.
right? And you know what's so crazy when you go to Haiti? You know what's so
Mhm.
crazy when they go to Haiti? They actually have Alexander Petion and Dessalines sharing a coffin.
Really? But bro, I thought like Dessalines death is similar to what we hear in Kemet with I forgot his name. Was it Horus or Cyrus? Horus, who gets chopped up, right? And then
21 pieces. Yes, sir.
yeah.
21
So that
pieces.
happened
Yep.
with that happened with Dessalines, right? But I have heard stories in different accounts. I don't know how true it is that they never could find his body parts whatsoever, or his remains. Is that true?
So Basile, there was a woman named Basile
Yes.
who they call her Defile Basile. And
Mm,
she was a little out of it, but she was very loyal to Dessalines,
yeah.
right? And she's actually the one who collected his body parts, collected his uniform and everything. They weren't able to find everything, but enough to have a burial or whatever like that.
Mm,
Um, it was even said, and not confirmed, but it was said that during the earthquake in 2010, that
yeah.
the crypt that Dessalines had, his
Yeah.
skull his skull rolled out of it. Now I don't know if that's true or not. It could
Yeah.
be folklore, same thing like mermaids in Haiti.
Yeah.
But I was told by some credible sources that
Yeah.
when the earthquake happened, Dessalines' skull rolled out into the street. But yeah, so
Wow.
when you go to Haiti, they actually do have um, Alexander Petion and Toussaint, I mean not Toussaint, Dessalines actually in a crypt together
And so I would
in
say
in Salty.
completely separate that, because and I think that's why we already know what the outside influences have done to Haiti, these so-called
Mhm.
superpowers that sold our people out, our own people sold us out as well, infiltrated and whatever, create the propaganda and the constant conflict that we under. But I think for me, with the Haiti people need to honor Dessalines more. I'm not saying do not honor Toussaint, because Toussaint is like, as Professor Aina Bello puts it, Toussaint is like the Legba, but Dessalines the Ogu. But I'm saying we need to honor Dessalines more. because I think the people are lacking that fighting spirit right now, and I mean that
Yes, sir.
respectfully.
Yes, sir.
Because
Yes,
right
sir.
now, people need to not only speak about the Haitian Revolution, but to really incorporate into their mindset. Because look at the way the country is. You got these gangs. Not even want to call them gangs. I call them paid militias, private militias that are funded with money and weapons because Haiti does not produce weapons. You know what I'm saying? So we know where those guns are coming from. Alphabet boys, you know what I'm saying, and these oligarchs. We need to really look into that, examine that, and people need to incorporate the Dessalines spirit and say, I'm not gonna sell my people out. I'll do whatever it takes. Cause like, come on, man, you're the first to do it. It could be done again.
Yeah. Yes, sir. I want to step back
Go
for
ahead.
a second and talk about the reparations that was paid to France. So
Okay, go
what I
ahead.
was doing is I was referring to how Dessalines was assassinated,
Mm-hmm.
and then you had Henry Christophe who came up to power, but then you also had Alexander Petion in the south portion of Haiti, right? With
Yeah.
his group of mulattoes and blacks and whatever the case may be. And then you had Henry Christophe in the north. So Haiti was split in basically two fractions.
Yeah, I heard about
And
that. Mhm.
so what Henry Christophe did is that he recognized that he had the Spanish to the other side of the island. He had
Yes.
someone below him, Alexander Petion, who was friendly with the French, who wanted to kiss the French behind.
Yeah.
Alexander Petion even said one time to Toussaint, he said, "I will not stay in a country that's ran by a black Frenchman." And he left on an expedition back to France, and then came back to re-enslave them. So he actually came back on an expedition to
Mhm.
re-enslave the black people with Napoleon in them, right?
Wow.
So what Henry Christophe realized is that he had enemies to the east or west, whatever Dominican Republic side that is, and then
Mhm.
to the south of him. And so he picked up on the ideas that Dessalines left behind, which was to build the citadel,
Yeah.
right? And so, for anybody who doesn't know, that's the largest fort in the Western Hemisphere, and
One
it
of the eighth
was it
wonders in the
was
world.
designed and created. Yes, sir. It was designed and created, just in case the French would ever want to come back, right?
Yep.
That we could protect ourselves as a sovereign nation. And so what happens then is Toussaint, excuse me, let me slow down for a little bit. So you
Mhm.
have the brother Henry Christophe, and you have Alexander Petion having their little beefs and their wars back and forth, and then unfortunately both of them end up dying. Now Boyer, who is who was also in the Haitian Revolution as well, he then unites the nation. He then brings the North and the South back together. So now you have Toussaint dead, you have Dessalines dead, you have Henry Christophe dead, and you have Alexander Petion dead. And now you have Boyer stepping up to become the first president or whatever you want to call him. So he unites the North and the South.
Yeah.
Now, here's the issue with that. Boyer was a mulatto.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Not only was he mulatto, but he was no different than Alexander Petion. He loved his French father that he never ever met. It is said that he wrote over 100 letters to his father, asking his father to recognize him as his son. Right.
Mm.
So when you're dealing with this type of sick mentality, and I'm not saying that all mixed race people have that, because some mixed race people identify more with their black side, some identify more with their white side, some like to stay in the middle. I'm not here
Yeah.
to say that, but this man clearly identified more with his French side and wanted to be a Frenchman by any cost. And
Hmm.
so not only did he want that recognition from his father, but he wanted that recognition from France. So instead of doing what these African black men did to prepare and get ready for war in case the French ever come back,
Yeah.
he essentially invited the French back, and he essentially went on his way for the French. Now, of course, they came back in warships and surrounded Haiti and all the things like that.
Yeah.
But if you were properly preparing for that, you would have been ready for that,
Of course, you would have
right?
seen it coming. Yeah.
Would have seen it coming. But
Hmm.
but bullies only pick on people when they think they soft. So
Yeah.
they didn't try that with Dessalines. They
Nah.
didn't try that with Henry Christophe. They tried
Mm-mm.
that with the mulatto who consistently tried to get his father's approval and get French approval.
So
So they
his
knew who to try
psyche,
it with.
yeah, his psyche. They know he was very vulnerable, fragile, and he was desperate for attention. Inferior complex. That's basically,
Correct.
yeah.
Correct. And so this is how we end up getting in a situation where we owe France or end up paying France billions of dollars in reparations, which drove the economy uh, deep into recession, into the ground. And then
Yeah.
obviously, of course, you have the embargoes and you have all these
Hmm.
things that took place. But we really have to study what Chancellor Williams calls the mulatto problem. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Chancellor Williams
Oh
and
yeah,
his
he
book, The
wrote the
Destruction.
Destruction of Black Civilization. I read that. Damn. See, I'm gonna show my age. I read that book when I was 1920, so that's like over 20 something years ago. I gotta
Okay,
go back.
okay, no.
Yeah, yeah.
Powerful book. I think a lot of people read it as history, and
Nah,
instead of reading it as case studies, right?
yeah.
Because that's exactly what the book is. It's case studies where he's talking about certain civilizations that actually fell and why they fell and how they
Hmm.
fell and etc. And one of the ones he talks about is ancient Kemet and how
Mm,
ancient Kemet, they created a mulatto class
yeah.
that rose up against the black fathers and mothers of ancient Kemet and ended up attacking them for their Eurasian mothers and sisters. And we see this in the Haitian Revolution,
It
right?
happens
We
all the
see this
time. Yeah.
repeating itself, right?
Hmm.
We see it repeating itself in Brazil right now with the Mamelukes and the whites killing the black Brazilians and things like that,
Yeah.
or the mixed race. So, we have to really study and interpret history in a different way to create a different future. And this is why I wear this Sankofa chain, right?
I like that. I like
Go
that.
back and get it to remember. Because history is not just time, dates, and events.
Yeah.
History is present and future.
Yeah.
And if we truly understand that, through studying the Haitian Revolution, we can see how we failed with
Of course.
accepting mixed race people to be our leaders. We can see how we failed, and I'll give you a prime example. Like Sister Naomi Nasaka, I think her name is, the
Oh
tennis
yeah.
player.
Yeah. The tennis player. Yeah. The Japanese and Haitian. Yeah.
So I think she's a phenomenal tennis player, right?
Okay.
But she can't be the voice for Haitian people. She can't be the standard of beauty for Haitian girls. Because her
Mm.
herself, she's not a full Haitian girl. She can't speak to my needs. She can't speak to the needs of someone who's black. She can't speak to the psychological. We don't have the same psychological, advantages and disadvantages. We don't have that.
I see where you're
So
coming from with
it's
that. I want to
yeah,
interject with
it's
that.
very.
I want
No,
to hold,
please,
hold,
please
hold,
go ahead.
hold on, hold on, Joe. I want to interject with that.
Please,
Reason being I say
please go
that
ahead.
is we keep it real. I have some interracial people in my family, nieces and all that. I always love them, but I always teach them their history, let them know, this is part of you. Never negate that side of you. And of course, you got to respect your other half as well. But I always tell them, this is who you are. This is where your mother comes from. You understand, and they get that, and I get what you're saying as far as expressing somebody who doesn't look like you can express what I endure because you psychologically haven't been there. You don't know how it is to be on that side. That's what happened to Haiti, as you said, with the Boyer and with Boyer and Petchen, because in your words, as you said, case studies, they didn't walk that walk. They came after the war was done. Like, okay, we're here now. We're Haitian too, but are you really Haitian? Do you know what we endure as darker hue people? Because the caste system plays a role. And that's something that happens across the globe, the diaspora, the continent, and everything. It's always that caste system. You know what I'm saying? And that's part of who's that guy name again? Johan Boom. I forgot his name. But I had a post of him, put him up. Like, yeah, I thank this guy for this shit. You know what I'm saying?
Well, so I'm gonna say two things. I'm gonna say
Hmm.
two, and it's Johann Blumenbacher. But
Yeah,
give
Johan
me
Blumenbacher. Yeah.
yes, sir. I want to address two things on that.
Hmm.
So the first thing I'm going to address is um, I don't dislike any mixed race person
Hmm.
because you are not the determining fact of how you were born,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
I may have more of an issue with your parent than I have with you, right? Because you can't help that. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? But in my opinion, I think that in a racist world, in a world that's built on race, in a world
Mhm.
that is not colorblind, one of the most selfish things you could do as a parent is to make a child that's going to grow up confused, that's going to grow up in a world that's based on race.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Because you want to get a white girl, because you want to get a white guy, you then selfishly make a child that has to draw a hard line between what am I, who am I, what do I do, and oftentimes they're used by the white power structure, you
Of
know.
course.
But I don't dislike or hate any child, who is born of mixed race heritage.
Mm.
I just know I draw a hard line and say that you can't speak for me. You
Exactly.
cannot speak for me as an African person. The way I can't speak for women as African women, I can only be supportive of African women. I can't speak for them. A mixed race person cannot speak for me or represent what it means to be African to me. Now, that's my point of view. That's my hard stance on that. Even a full-blooded Negro can't speak for me. If you want some Negro stuff, you don't speak for me. So I draw that real hard line.
No, I
when
get
it
what you're
comes
saying.
to
100%. I agree with you 100%, and I'm glad that you put that, because I thought about that too with the Naomi Osaka and other people, because aesthetically, I heard this on TikTok as well. You know what I'm saying? Because I enter these rooms when I hear people talking, when they have some mulatto Haitian speaking on the matter. Some do speak, some don't, and they be like, some people be like, you can't speak for me because you're part of the problem. Right. You know what I'm saying? You're part of that echelon that you don't feel this like how we feel it down here, and that's something that Duvalier's Papa Duck was working with. That his government at the time, he kept the mulattoes at a certain level. Like, yo, you're not coming up here, because when y'all come up here, y'all look down on people. But then his son, after he passed, his son made that mistake and got with one. I believe she was part mulatto, Michelle Bennett, something like that, and all hell broke loose. So yeah, I'm glad. Yeah.
I mean, it's a very delicate situation, but it's one that if we just have more self-awareness and more self-love, it wouldn't even be a topic, because we wouldn't be making mixed race children if we have more love for self, if we have more understanding for self, but that's you always gonna find somebody who gonna go ahead and do that anyway.
Of course.
And to go back to Johann Blumenbacher, I want to say that when we think of like the idea of race, and we give white people the credit for creating racism, I think to some degree that is incorrect, right?
Okay.
Because far before the Europeans began enslaving us, we had Arabs enslaving us, and they made a very distinctive between what it means to be black, what it means to be Arab, and what it means to be other. So I know we like to say, the concept of race came from Johann Blumenbacher, and he did create the sciences of race, right? But even if you read some of Balboa's work, right, who was so-called one of the first explorers to make it here to the United States after, but whatever, and made it to South America. If you read some of his work, he ran into some Native Americans early on in South America. I think it was somewhere in like Argentina somewhere. He ran into some Native Americans, and they had these enslaved Africans. And he asked them. He said, Balboa asked me, he said, where'd you get these Africans from? And he said, oh, they're from across over the mountain, and we've been warring with them for generations, right? And so this is even before the Europeans even put in their mind the idea of race. You had Native Americans or whatever you want to classify them as people enslaving Africans, right?
Yeah.
So I know we give them credit for starting racism, but I feel like they just made it more universal than other people, because Africans throughout history and antiquity, they have been raised as heroes, and then they have also been raised as villains. Even if you go into in like old Indian culture, they have something called like the Dravidians and things like that, the Untouchables, right?
Yeah.
This goes way back before Europeans even came to India. They had this whole caste system thing going on, right?
Yeah, of
Where
course.
even one of their gods is like this black thing with like long nails and stuff like that. So,
the sister, what's they call her again? Mahakali, with the tongue. She cut the head off the white. She cut the head off the white men, and the tongue.
Yeah, something like So when we talk about racism, I know we like to give the credit to white people, and white people do deserve a lot of it. I'm not going to take that away. I'm gonna get them what it get, but it sort of existed, amongst us or amongst people, for quite some time. Now, one thing I always try to challenge people is you show me where African people have practiced racism or prejudice or bigotry against other people, because everywhere we've gone, we've always been the most humane, loving, and caring people, except to ourselves. But
That compassion, I'm telling you, and you're right. I'm glad you said that. To ourselves, we don't see
yeah,
ourselves always an enemy. No, I'm glad. Oh man, this was good, man. I got to get you back on here so we could just go further, deeper into this, because now I'm looking at the Haitian Revolution as a case study now. Like I'm like, yo, that's true, because a lot of things, like I think that was like the genesis of what they were going to bring out to the rest of the world. Although slavery was already taking place, but the tactics that were used on the psychological, I won't say a lot, but yeah, economically and everything, to destroy you, make you fight, the infighting that happened amongst us, and the distrust we had, like, for a nation to liberate itself in 200 plus 20 years, we can't just get it together, man. We always got to have a handler to tell us what to do, when to do it, how to do it. The issues with I call them again, not gangs, private owned militias carrying out an order. You know what I'm saying? How do you?
So I want to say this, brother. I want to say this right quick. That a lot of people don't know this, and this is what blows my mind, right?
Mm-hmm.
So not only when Boyer agreed to pay reparations to France, but it also came with negotiations, right?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the negotiations that people never talk about, which I don't know how it goes over our mind, is that Catholicism would become the national religion of Haiti again. So the French said, okay, good, paying us is good. We want the money. We want the money, but we also want y'all to make Catholicism, Christianity, the religion of Haiti again. Now, for anybody thinking critically and logically about that, you would say, well, why does that matter? Why is that even
psychologically it matters? Spiritual. And what we said earlier, down to the voodoo, like, let's keep it real. I know they gonna dislike me because I deal with a family that deals with this. Even some of the praise in voodoo is Catholic prayers, right? Can we be honest? It's some Catholic praise in there, right? And we speaking about Boyer. You know what I'm saying? What that sucker did, even with him going into the DR, occupying it for 22 years, create even more havoc. What was the science behind that?
So, you had the Spanish, agitating. They were agitating. They were trying to, take back over Haiti, because they sold it to France with that whole that Treaty of Wiswick.
Rizwick.
Pronounce it. Yeah.
Rizwick, I believe. Yeah, Rizwick.
Yeah. So, they were they kept agitating. They kept pushing back and doing things and things like that. And so, Boyer and Dessalines, other people felt that it'd be necessary that if we go over there and take that land, then we'll be able to kick the Spanish out. And then we can commingle as brothers and sisters. Some of us might be lighter, some of us might be darker, but then we can kind of, get along. But the propaganda that the Spanish left over there in the minds of those Africans was deeply rooted, man. See, here's the thing about it. Here's the part that we missed about this. The Spanish were the first to start educating, where they was like, oh yeah, we gonna open up schools. Yeah. Schools is how we gonna get them, right? And so you had one of the first schools in America being created, and I'm using quotation marks because this is what most historians say. One of the first schools in America was in the Americas, right? Was in Dominican Republic, right? Yeah. Where they started already educating the children, propagandizing, educating the children. You get what I'm saying? And that's a real thing, man. We don't understand how deep that socialization is within our people, right? Like I'll give you an example. In psychology, there's something called the Pavlov experiment, where you do things with like sounds and lights, and like you'll take a dog and then you would zap the dog, and then or
Yeah,
you'll
after a
ring a
while,
bell,
yeah, to get the
right?
food, and then
To get the food.
after a while, it conditioned them a certain way. Yeah.
Correct. We don't understand how conditioning we have been. Like
Mhm.
we don't understand how through television, through music, through schooling, we have
Mhm.
been conditioned to be displeased with blackness, to view whiteness as something holy and sanctified. Like there
Yeah.
was a study done not too long ago, right? I like these studies because it brings me into more clearer understanding of what's going on in the world. There was a study done a long time ago, maybe early 2000s, where these social scientists, they realized that whenever you feed a child something, a good feeling goes through their body,
Hmm.
right? Because we often equate, feelings with food and
Yeah.
nurturing and things like that,
Touch and
right?
everything. Yeah.
And they were trying to figure out why, black children were having positive responses to white people. And what they
Hmm.
realized and I'm making it real short, what they realized is that on the box of on the Gerber baby food box,
The white baby. Yeah.
was the white baby.
Hmm.
So as you're making the baby's bottle and you're feeding the baby and you're giving the baby the bottle, they seeing that white child. They're seeing that white person. So when we truly understand how socialization and conditioning works
Hmm.
on our every day, the smallest things. White supremacy hasn't taken a day off in 400 years. It is
Never have. Never will.
consistently,
Hmm.
it will not. Every day you have to get up and program yourself and say, I'm not gonna say that. I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna holler that to a brother. I'm not gonna treat a sister like that. Yeah,
Hmm.
it's an everyday battle within yourself.
I'm glad you said that, because even down to the most ignorant thing I have heard, you see how we're speaking and other guests on the show that would dialogue with us, and we're taking our time, we're speaking in different vernacular or whatsoever, proper, terms, past tense and enunciation. They will say, "You're speaking like a white person." So you mean to tell me if I speak intelligently, I'm white, but if I speak foolish, I'm black? Like I'm like, whoa, hold on, that doesn't make sense, fam. That's not synonymous. Like we're not synonymous with ignorance, man. What are you talking about?
So I'm gonna challenge that in a way, right?
Hmm.
Being someone, I wouldn't say I'm a linguistic person,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
being someone who has studied linguistics, right? I
Hmm.
think, okay, I'm gonna try to tie it all in because I speak
Right.
African sometimes, right?
Go ahead.
So I speak African sometimes.
Hmm.
So are you familiar with Anansi?
Enunciation or nunci?
No, Anansi. Anansi is a West African, you know, um, character to say, and it's a spider. And what
Oh,
the spider does is the spider tells stories, right?
okay. Like a
And have you ever
something like
heard? No, I'm sorry.
like a griot, like telling a storyteller, like an elder. Okay,
Yeah, yeah. But it is represented as a spider,
okay.
right? Because we we see everything through symbols.
Hmm.
Words are nothing more than symbols that we both agree that this is the A is I, right?
Hmm.
Now,
Hmm.
who's to say that it really is I? But we both agree that A is I,
Yeah.
B is ba, and then
Hmm.
we associate it with a symbol, an apple.
Hmm.
So I is for apple, right? That's the only thing that words are, right? So words are symbols that we can manifest into something that we can communicate. This is
Hmm.
why Asian people, they have those little symbols
Yeah,
where
they
you like,
writing.
what the hell is that? But
Hmm.
they know exactly what it is because they know what the symbol is. They all agree this is the symbol.
Hmm.
Same thing in Arabic script and things like that. It's not that it's something that's universally correct. It's just what we all agree on
The symbol.
is the symbol, is the word.
Hmm.
So I'm saying all that to say this. Let me bring it full course because I don't want people to get lost. Let me bring it
No, go
full
ahead.
course. So Africans speak in a certain dialect, right?
Hmm.
Like when you look at any West African language or any Caribbean language, we don't use any strong consonants, right? So when Europeans speak, they say things like, I am going to the store.
Mm-hmm.
Africans speak because we are using our African minds to speak a European language. We say things like, "I'm finna go to the store."
Yeah, I'm finna go.
You see how
Yeah,
you see
yeah,
how you didn't hear any hard consonants, no hard, no
yeah. It
I
just flow. It's
am
just swift.
go.
Just
It just flow.
yeah.
So even when you look at how, let's say for example, how Haitians speak Creole, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a very flowing language.
Yeah,
There's nothing
it is.
hard in the language.
Rhythmatic. It's just rhythm.
Is very, so I feel like
Yeah,
you should, it's a flow to it,
yeah,
right? When someone speaks French, it's fuka sa sa pa, fuka pa
yeah,
pa pa, and it's
yeah.
very right. So even when you go down to Southern language, when you go down to certain Spanish language, like they'll tell you quick that oh, he's speaking that Cuban Spanish,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or he's
Dialect. Yeah.
speaking that because what it is our African minds don't deal with hard consonants, right?
I
We
don't.
speak
Yeah.
in a very rhythmic way of speaking. And so, in my interpretation, when someone says, "Oh, you speaking white," what they're saying is you're using hard consonants. Not that you're speaking proper.
Yeah.
That's how I interpret it. Not meaning, you know, what I'm
Yeah.
saying that you speaking better. It just means that you speaking out of our dialect on
The
how we speak
frequency.
as an African. Correct. Correct.
Got
The
you.
frequency. You're speaking more with the high nasal. You know, we're going over here. Like that's
Uh,
not how we
You
speak as
see, you
Africans.
sound like Al Roker. Wait, what weather going on? You talking about that?
Correct,
Yeah, I
correct,
got
correct,
you.
correct, correct. So that's how I have learned to interpret it, not meaning that you're speaking proper, because we've been speaking back and forth, you know, using different words, et cetera, et cetera. But it's more about how the flow is that we're taking it. Because as the old African proverb goes, it's not what you said, it's how you said
How
it.
you say it? Oh, beautifully said. Yeah, yo, my brother, I got to get you back on here, man. We got to get back on
I'm
here
here, brother.
because I want to. I'm glad that we spoke, like we touched on the Haitian history, and it is a lot more. It's very deep because from studying some books and hearing accounts from people, there's a lot of layers to that revolution that we haven't yet to touch. The spiritual influence that pushed it, what they endured, and what became Haiti's culture. We know what the voodoo is what helped our revolution, but then within the voodoo, the Africans left Africa with it. You know what I'm saying? And say in Spain, when the Moors were done, when they fell from civilizing the Europeans, it incorporated some Taino factors in the voodoo. As we know, the Catholic Church is in there, in the African spirituality system. You know what I'm saying? So we got to touch more. And I'd like to do a show with you. I want to get more into this FBA thing, man, because I don't like the way it's looking out here amongst our people. Because I'm with you with the whole Pan-Africanist thing. I love that. That's a better approach for me. You know what I'm saying? The
Yeah.
Pan-African approach is the best to me. It makes more sense than the division. Go ahead, guy.
All right.
You know what I'm saying?
And listen. I'm gonna be honest with you, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, Haiti is in my opinion, I gotta say in my opinion and in my research, because something something always can come out new that can prove me wrong,
Yeah.
right? But in my opinion, Haiti is the antithesis of Pan-Africanism, right? Like you have these Africans coming from Congo, what we now know as Congo, what we now know as Nigeria, Ghana, different parts of the interior of Africa coming together to forge this one culture, this one African identity, right? This one spiritual system, which we call voodoo, which is a Fon word, which means spirit,
Yep.
right? And so, Haiti is the beginning of what I consider to be the Pan-Africanism. And if
It
you
is.
look at some of the first, if you look at some of the first Pan-African movements, right? You see the people who was on those panels, who was writing up the declarations and things like that. It was Haitians,
Yeah.
or what we call African Haitians. So I mean, it only makes sense for us to unite as a people. I can't see any reason other than to continue white supremacy for Black people to be at odds with one another. I can't see any other reason. Now, does that mean that we are perfect? Does it mean that we're gonna create a utopia and a Wakanda tomorrow? No,
Nah.
doesn't mean that. But it does mean we need to work towards a greater future for ourselves and for our children and our children after that.
Mhm.
So
With that being said, people, coupe that boule kai. Stop the BS, stop the nonsense. There got to be some unification with respect, I say, amongst even Haiti and DR. Because listen, both nations were birthed out of slavery. Let's keep it real. You know what I'm saying? Let's not gatekeep and somehow like gatekeep who came first or try to weaponize DNA. Because at the end of the day, we both fought for liberation, and we gotta learn from the errors of the past and move forward. Kill the xenophobia. My brother Baba, I appreciate you for coming out, my brother, tonight.
Appreciate
You know what I'm saying? You came
Appreciate
through,
brother.
man. You knocked it out. Don't forget people to comment, like, share, subscribe. We got super chats. Where can the people reach you at, brothers? Reach out to you in case they want to get more dialogue from you or something like that.
I mean, Brother Hassan, on all social media platforms. Sometime I might change the name, but usually it's gonna be Brother Hassan. So BROTHA Hassan, HASSAN. And YouTube, I'm on YouTube too. I haven't been, much creative with that. Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. I'm on all social media platforms, or they can hit me on my WhatsApp or whatever. I'm just here to continue the work of the people who came before me, man. I stand on some heavy shoulders, you know. And I can't, content. I can't live out the rest of my life not continuing this work. This work is going to be, whether it's profitable, whether it's not profitable, whether it's painful, whether it's whatever. This healing Black people, educating Black people, African people, connecting with African people, will be my life's journey until I'm an ancestor. So
So the
I'm
same
here
way
for that
too,
work.
God. I'm here with that too, bro. All right, man. With that being said, we out, people. Peace.